Hi, I'm Chef Alan with Global Sugar Art. Making buttercream flowers can be very challenging if you don't have the right consistency of icing. A lot of people just use the buttercream that they're using to ice their cake with, but today I'm going to show you a recipe to make a buttercream icing that works extremely well for flowers. It holds up well in the heat and it stands up nice and tall. The petals stand up nice and tall, and you can pull leaves out of it that have a nice pointed edge. To get started, we're just going to start with 2 pounds of confectioner sugar. This is 10x, or you can use 6x sugar, and just dump that into a bowl. Now you can have this recipe if you want. I tend to make this 2-pound recipe and then put it in containers and I freeze it. And when I'm ready to make some flowers, I just pull out one small container, let it come to room temperature, mix it up, and I'm ready to go. So 2 pounds of confectioner sugar, and you're going to add between 1/3 and 1/2 cup of cool water. So this is a 1/2 cup. I'm going to put most of it in, but I'm going to reserve a little bit back just in case this is soft enough. It will all depend on how moist the sugar is actually. And then 2 teaspoons of flavoring. I'm using the Allen's Bridal Blend, or you can use clear vanilla. Now, I'm saying clear vanilla because I'm making flowers. I'm going to be coloring them. I want them to be the truest color they can be. So if you use a dark vanilla, you're going to have a slightly creamy shade in the icing rather than pure white. And then you're going to be using shortening. Now this is all vegetable white fat. In the US, you can use a product like Crisco, or even better, if you can obtain Sweet Tex, which is a high ratio cake and icing shortening, that works the very best of everything. Now people often ask me on these videos, where can I buy this shortening? If you're not from the United States, I can tell you that in the United Kingdom, there's a product called Trex. In other countries, it goes under other names, and I'm not sure what it is, but it must be a vegetable fat. It cannot be an animal fat like lard. It can't be coconut oil. It can't be almond butter. It can't be canola oil. It can only be a solid white vegetable fat. So I really wanted to explain that. Now, to this 2 pounds of sugar, I'm going to use 1 pound of the vegetable fat. I'm not going to put it all in at once. I'm only going to put in about 1/3 of it. This is rather firm. There. I'm going to save 2/3 of it for later. If you put it all in now, it will overmix. The icing will get very light and fluffy and full of air, and it will be no good for piping flowers. So make sure you only start with 1/3. So my water is in, my fat and the sugar, and we're just going to start this in a very slow speed. Okay, this is just blending together. The point that I want to make now, this is the most important part. I'm not putting all the ingredients at once because I'm going to mix this for 4 or 5 minutes on slow speed until there are no lumps at all. And to test that, I'm going to put a spoon in, put a little on between my fingers, and I'm going to feel if there are any lumps. If there are any lumps, keep mixing it on slow speed until all the lumps have disappeared. This is the most important step. There's nothing more aggravating than trying to pipe a rose or a mum and the tip keeps getting plugged. And you can prevent that by doing this at the very first step. So I'm going to turn this back on and give this a few minutes. Now I've mixed this for maybe 60 to 90 seconds, and you can see that this is really firm. So I'm going to have to add the remainder of the water, and I'm just going to do that slowly as this is mixing. That's perfect. Now I want to show you the consistency. This is not done, but this is a much better consistency than I had before. It's going to seem very, very thick to you. Now, notice that I'm using a pretty heavy-duty mixer. You might be able to use a small hand mixer with this, but because this is such a heavy icing, you almost need sort of a commercial or a semi-commercial mixer. I'm going to let this go for about 2 more minutes. So I've mixed the first stage now for two or 3 minutes just at a low to medium speed, and it's really thick. It's quite heavy. So I'm just going to put my spoon in there and put some between my finger, and I don't feel any lumps at all. So I know that this icing is ready to go to add the rest of the shortening. So I'm going to add the remainder of the white shortening. Now it's very important at this point that you don't mix this on medium or high speed. You want to keep this on low speed from here on. Now, one of the items I forgot to mention, get this icing in, I'm using a beater blade that has a silicone scraper on it, so it automatically scrapes my bowl as it's mixing, which is a really nice feature. If you don't have that, make sure that you stop and you scrape the bowl and the beater really well, at least 3 or 4 times during this process. Otherwise, you're going to end up with lumpy sugar at the bottom of the bowl. So make sure that you stop and scrape this as often as you need to. So this is mixed now for about 3 or 4 minutes on a low speed, and it's ready. But I have one more ingredient to add, and this is sort of my secret ingredient that I think really makes a difference in making flowers, and that's glycerin. This is obtainable through our website. You can find glycerin in a pharmacy. Wilton puts out glycerin. It's a safe food product, and it adds a real silkiness to the icing and a real smoothness that helps when you're piping. So I'm going to be adding about 3 tablespoons of glycerin to this while it's mixing. Once you add the glycerin, don't overmix it. Just mix it until it's really blended well. And I want to show you the consistency of this icing now. It's firm, it stands up, it's not going to flop over. It's really a very, very smooth consistency. This is perfect for piping flowers. It's also great for piping borders and decorations on a cake. Now, people are going to say to me, I know I'm going to get comments on this video channel, what does it taste like? Of course, it doesn't have butter in it. You can't use butter because butter melts so quickly. The heat of your hand will melt the butter, the room temperature will melt the butter, and your flowers will not stand up. You've got to use a white vegetable fat. And of course, if you're using an artificial clear vanilla, you're not using real vanilla. This is one part of cake decorating where taste is going to sacrifice to get the looks you want. But if you're only putting flowers on the cake made out of this icing, and the rest of the cake has a wonderful Italian buttercream or a Swiss meringue buttercream, no one's going to care. What really matters is that the decorations really look the way you want them. If you've gone through all the trouble of making beautiful flowers, you want them to look their best on a cake. So this is the icing that's going to help you get to that point. So I'm going to mix up a little bit of a colored icing and show you how well it works. So I've taken some of the icing I just made, added a little bit of the rose pink coloring to it, and I want to show you how beautifully this pipes. You're not going to see any jagged edges. It stays up nice and tall. The petals stay up nice and tall. They don't flop down. If you were to be making this with butter, I can guarantee you on a warm day that rose would just sort of sink down. But with this recipe, the flowers will stay up nice and tall on your cake. Now you can freeze these and then just take them out and lift them up and put them on a cake too. Or you can use a pair of scissors to transfer them to the cake. I hope you've enjoyed this video. The supplies are available at globalsugarart.com. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.